I had an abortion in the 70s. I didn't have my faith in Jesus Christ then. I was coerced and pressured, as 85% of women who have abortions are. But I folded, and I take responsibility for that. In those days, abortion just became legal, and we were told that our babies, before 3 months gestation, were just a blob of tissue, a cluster of cells, a nobody, a nothing. That's not the truth. With the advent of the ultrasound machine, we can see the humanity of our babies right off. And God says in His Word, who to me is the ultimate authority, that He knows each and every one of us as He knits us together in our mother's womb. God doesn't make mistakes.
On January 20th, students at Benedictine College boarded buses for the annual March for Life in Washington, D.C. More than ever, they understood the need to make a powerful showing. This was the largest group of marchers in the college's history. Just hours earlier, the nation had inaugurated a new president. For all the historic value of his election, Barack Obama had promised to undo the progress pro-life forces had made in the last 35 years. The marchers planned to get his attention. 150 years earlier, Christian abolitionists left their homes back east and traveled these same roads to settle Kansas and keep it free from slavery. They hoped, much like these students, to touch the heart of Washington and the world.
I want them to know that Benedictine College respects life, and we're proud to stand up, and we're proud to travel 24 hours to show that to the people who are governing our country. I don't want to misquote anyone who talks about change, but I think we are change. We're the real change here.
On the night of January 20th, the students at John Carroll High School in Birmingham packed for their trip to Washington. 45 years earlier, students in Birmingham marched to protest another human rights abuse, the jailing of Reverend Martin Luther King. In his famous letter from the Birmingham jail, King compared his mission to that of the Apostle Paul. As Paul carried forward the gospel of Jesus Christ, so King would carry forward the gospel of freedom. These students would play their own small part in carrying forward not just the gospel of freedom, but the gospel of life. This gateway city has seen more than its share of pilgrims. Free Staters heading to Kansas, Mormons heading to Utah, homesteaders heading to sundry points west. On this cold January day, thousands of Missourians of all faiths began their pilgrimage to Washington, D.C.
People that have more power than us, that have more money than us, and so we need to remember one thing. God loves life. He loves all of us, and He even loves the abortionist and the woman that's going to go and have that abortion tomorrow. So we need to share that message that God loves life and He loves every person.
All right, excellent.
By historical standards, the sacrifice of the Missourians may have been small, but their cause by any standard was great. This, 19-year-old Drew Perkemper well understood.
With the Civil Rights Act or slavery or anything like that, where, it was obvious that there was injustice being done there, obvious that people were not being respected. But what's completely different about, abortion is that the people who were being most disrespected, the ones who are dying, can't actually do anything about it. And that's why I think this fight is so much more difficult, and why it takes, us to stand up for this, but it's a much more difficult and a complete, harder struggle, I think, in many cases.
The Alabama buses roll through the ancient tribal lands of the Creek and the Cherokee. When President Jackson ordered the tribes west on the infamous Trail of Tears, Christians shocked him by protesting. An angry Jackson would be the first president to argue that religion had no place in politics. He would not be the last. Though just 15, Mariel Gabensky understood the place religious values have in the public square.
Well, obviously, I'd like to see, or the government would see how many people are pro-life and want an end to abortion, and for them to see that not the whole United States wants abortion.
The Kansas students also saw the value of having their voices heard.
A lot of times it's very surprising for people seeing the number of people for the first time who are all united, and that's definitely, for a first timer, that's someone that may grow in their zeal for the movement just by seeing the sheer number of people there. And so being able to observe it and take it all in and really see for themselves how many people in America are pro-life, and that pro-lifers aren't just the weirdo person that you see walking down the hall at school, or some radical that's, just not likable at all. There's no stereotype for someone who's pro-life. It's just people who love life and love babies and want them all to have a chance at life.
And I think that this march from Benedictine, with as many people as we have, over 130 people, shows that young people especially are tired of the wrongs that are being done, and they want to do something about it.
Drew and his father Vince shared their reasons for making the journey.
Because we live in a culture that wants to, have laws to respect animals and, plants and, the environment, things like that. Yet there's this human life here, and it allows, that human life to just be killed. And, to me that seems completely crazy, but I think what it really comes down to is that when it affects the person directly, the situation can change. It's easy for someone to say, let's save the whales or something like that, because that's not something that closely affects them. Versus, when they're pregnant, it's completely different.
You read the paper, it sounds like maybe 10,000 people are there. It's not that way. When you have 242,000, that's near 250,000 people that show up, and they've been showing up for 35 years. They've been showing up in January. They've been showing up when it's cold, and they show up for one reason, and that is to stand up for the unborn child, to stand up for life.
Buses from Kansas, Missouri, Alabama, and a